Until the fighting stops, returning home is out of the question for most Ukrainians, but options are limited, and many are urging the United States to do more. Joining me now is Krish O'Mara Vignarajah, President and CEO of the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. She was the policy director for First Lady Michelle Obama and a senior advisor for Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and John Kerry. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about what the United States is doing. Have we revised our visa policy? Are we accepting Ukrainian refugees in an expedited way?
Katie, thanks for having me. So at this moment, we're not. We obviously have allowed for temporary protected status for Ukrainians who are here in the U.S. But in terms of expediting family fleeing Ukraine who have U.S. ties here, there hasn't been an acceleration. We haven't used vehicles that we could use, like humanitarian parole, which would allow people to enter the country on a temporary basis. It's how we had 76,000 Afghan allies come to the U.S., several months ago.
And what's stopping us from doing that? Is it something that President Biden can do by executive order, or would it need to go through Congress?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think part of it is, understandably, the administration had said that we need to play a supporting role to European nations because, of course, those nations represent the front line. And I think the initial focus in the first several days of this conflict was providing the humanitarian assistance, providing logistical support. Early on, the U.S. forces deployed 5,000 troops to help Poland. But I think this is where it's that tipping point. Here at home, it's equally critical for the U.S. to take on a more direct role. And we have the room and the resources to welcome displaced Ukrainians, especially acknowledging that the overwhelming majority are women and children, especially for those who have U.S. ties. They're facing incredibly long visa times. This is within the control of the White House and federal administrations. And so our federal agencies need to surge staff and resources. But we also need to use the refugee resettlement program. We've resettled 50,000 Ukrainians since 2001. That system was decimated by the Trump administration. But just as we, in part, rebuilt it with the Afghan resettlement effort, we can do that with Ukrainians as well.
You know, I've heard stories of Ukrainian minors who have no family to go to out of Poland, but had to flee, or in Poland, I should say, and have had the family members that live in the United States not be able to take them to the United States because they need to apply for a visa, a tourist visa, which could take 3 months to get, which seems just ludicrous in the moment, considering that they're minors. Is there anything beyond taking people in that the United States can do to help them resettle in these neighboring countries? Any way that we can make it easier for Poland to accept the refugees or Hungary to accept the refugees?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that we have the expertise, having been the global humanitarian leader on refugee resettlement since 1980, when we started our system. Poland has asked for our expertise, as they raised during Vice President's trip last week. So I think certainly there are two key components of what we could do right now. So one piece of that is the humanitarian assistance that the White House presented and Congress has clearly supported in a bipartisan way last week. And then the second piece is providing that logistical support. Just as our military has gone in to Afghanistan with the military evacuation, to Africa and built hospitals, we can help build that capacity in terms of the operation centers that will provide welcoming.
Krish O'Mara Vignarajah, thank you so much for coming on and helping me understand. This is a question that's been bugging me now for over a week, trying to figure out what we are doing here in the United States to take Ukrainian refugees, considering that there are now 2.5 million and we only expect there to be a lot more as time goes on. Thanks for joining us.